All right, you ready to dive into some serious breakfast deliciousness?
I'm starving. Let's do it.
Today, we're exploring the most popular breakfast dishes from every single state in America.
Oh, wow. Every state. That's ambitious.
It is, but luckily, we have an expert guide, YouTube chef Joshua Weissman, who actually cooked and taste tested each state's most iconic breakfast.
Weissman. Oh, yeah. I love his videos. He really goes all out.
Exactly, and this is no exception.
So how do you even begin to compare, like, a Hawaiian locomoco with, I don't know, a Maine blueberry pancake?
Well, Weissman loves a good challenge.
Haha. Yeah, he does.
He used the classic internet tier list,
Yeah.
ranking everything from CES for like best breakfast ever,
Oh, yeah.
all the way down to F for, well, let's just say you might want to just skip breakfast.
Ooh. So we're talking some real highs and lows here.
Absolutely. But what's cool is that Weissman didn't just pick random dishes.
Oh, so he did his research.
He went deep, diving into online polls, local favorites, even looking at his historical food trends to choose each state's representative breakfast.
So it's not just about what tastes good. It's like a window into each state's breakfast culture.
Yeah, it's like culinary anthropology, but way more delicious.
I like that. Culinary anthropology.
But before we get to, like, the best of the
Like
best.
S-tier showdown.
Yes. I got to hear about some of the more, shall we say, unique entries.
Oh, there are some interesting ones for sure.
Did any states completely go rogue with their breakfast choices?
Delaware went for scrapple.
Scrapple, what even is that?
It's a loaf made from pork scraps and cornmeal, and then you fry it.
Okay. Sounds adventurous.
It's definitely a regional thing.
And how did Weissman feel about it?
Not a fan. Gave it a D. Said some things are better left as regional favorites.
Yeah, maybe I'll pass on that one.
Probably a good call.
Okay, but speaking of regional specialties, we have to talk about Tennessee's chicken and waffles.
Oh, yeah. Chicken and waffles. That's a classic.
That's having a moment, right? But is it really all it's hyped up to be?
It's interesting, chicken and waffles didn't actually start in the South. It's believed to have come from Pennsylvania, Dutch country.
Huh. Never would have guessed that.
But it really took off in the South, especially in soul food restaurants.
So Tennessee just perfected it.
You could say that. Weissman give it a solid A. Loved the mix of sweet and savory, crispy and fluffy.
So comfort food done right.
Absolutely.
Okay, well, let's stick with that comfort food vibe for a second.
Okay.
Mississippi, the home of biscuits and gravy.
Ah, biscuits and gravy.
Could you get any more comforting than that?
It's so simple, but so good.
Did it live up to Weissman's expectations?
It's really interesting. Biscuits and gravy is a dish born out of making the most of what you have.
Like a resourceful kind of cuisine.
Exactly. In the South, flour and lard were plentiful.
So biscuits were easy to make.
And gravy, a perfect way to use every bit of those meat drippings.
Waste not, want not.
Right. Weissman was surprised by how much he enjoyed it. Gave it a well-deserved A.
Sometimes those simple dishes are the best.
Absolutely.
Yeah, this is giving me such a craving for a good Southern breakfast right now.
Me too.
But speaking of history, we got to talk about Hawaii and their locomoco.
Locomoco, yeah.
It's such a unique dish, blending all these different cultural influences.
It really is a reflection of Hawaii's unique cultural mix.
So what's in it, for those who haven't had the pleasure?
Okay, so you've got a hamburger patty, right?
American influence.
Totally. Then you add white rice, a staple in Japanese cuisine.
Oh, that's cool.
And then, to top it all off, gravy and a fried egg.
It's like a party on a plate.
It really is a delicious hearty fusion.
And Weissman's verdict?
He loved it. Gave it an S-tier ranking.
Not surprised. It sounds incredible.
Locomoco just defies categorization, and that's what makes it so great.
I'm adding it to my must-try list.
You should.
But now I'm thinking, did any states go for something a little less, well, adventurous?
Let me think.
Something that maybe even surprised Weissman with its simplicity.
Indiana's fried mush.
Fried mush.
Yep. Fried mush. It's exactly what it sounds like.
Cornmeal porridge, fried,
You got it.
for breakfast.
Hey, don't knock it till you try it.
Okay, I'm keeping an open mind, but why fried mush?
It's actually a perfect example of how a humble dish captures a region.
So like a Midwestern staple.
Totally. Cornmeal was cheap and plentiful in the Midwest.
Makes sense.
You cook it into a porridge, let it cool, slice it up, and then fry it until it's golden and crispy.
Simple, yet satisfying.
And Weissman agreed. Gave it a B. Said it was a reminder that breakfast doesn't have to be fancy to be good.
Okay, you've convinced me I'm adding fried mush to the list.
Excellent choice.
Along with the locomoco, that is.
Uh-huh, of course.
But we're in the Midwest. We can't forget about Wisconsin and their kringle.
Kringle. Oh, yeah, the pastry.
I'm a sucker for anything with almond paste, but
Yeah.
did Weissman share my love?
Wisconsin's Kringle is another example of how food tells a story.
Oh, how so?
It reflects Wisconsin's strong European roots, especially the Danish and Scandinavian influence. It's this beautiful, oval-shaped pastry filled with almond paste, often topped with icing.
Sounds amazing.
It is, but Weissman, while he liked it, thought it was a bit too sweet for breakfast.
Yeah, maybe more of a dessert thing.
He gave it a B,
Go ahead.
said it was beautifully made, but not quite breakfast material.
A for effort, I guess.
Definitely.
Okay, well, let's shift gears completely and head down south to South Carolina.
Okay, where are we going?
Shrimp and grits.
Oh, yeah. That's a classic low-country dish.
It sounds so fancy and comforting at the same time.
It really embodies that coastal southern cuisine.
Fresh seafood meets creamy, cheesy grits.
You got it. It's a dish that's rooted in tradition, but also elevated to something special.
I'm sensing an S tier coming on.
You would be right. Weissman was blown away by the flavor and texture combinations. A tier, all the way.
It's like breakfast fit for royalty.
Or at least royalty of breakfast lovers.
I'm getting hungry just talking about all this food.
Me too.
But we've only scratched the surface of this breakfast bonanza.
There's so much more to explore.
Did any other states really surprise Weissman with their breakfast game?
Oh, there were a few more surprises in store.
I'm ready. Hit me with them.
North Dakota went with monkey bread.
Monkey bread. That sweet, pull-apart, gooey goodness.
The one and only.
For breakfast. I mean, I love it, but it's usually a dessert or brunch thing.
Right. But Weissman loved it. He gave it an S tier, said it's pure indulgence and just plain fun to eat.
I can't argue with that. It's hard to resist a good monkey bread.
Exactly.
Okay? But on the flip side, were there any states that totally missed the mark?
Oh, there were a few that left Weissman wishing he'd skip breakfast.
Oof, sounds rough.
Nevada went with graveyard steak and eggs.
Graveyard? That doesn't sound promising.
It's a massive plate of steak, eggs, potatoes, toast.
Oh, wow. Like a hangover cure.
Exactly, meant to soak up all the excesses of a Vegas night out.
I can see how that wouldn't be the most appealing breakfast.
Even Weissman, who loves a good hearty meal, found it way too heavy and greasy for breakfast.
So what did it get?
A D. It was just too much, even for Vegas standards.
Ouch, that's gotta sting.
Yeah, not Nevada's finest breakfast moment.
All right, well, let's cleanse our palates and head to a state known for its stunning scenery and hearty food.
Where are we off to?
Montana. And their choice was a classic, the cinnamon roll.
Ah, the cinnamon roll. Can't go wrong with that.
Right. It's timeless and comforting. Did Weissman agree?
He loved it. Montana's cinnamon roll was a real standout. He praised its simplicity, the soft, fluffy dough, the perfect swirl of cinnamon sugar, and the creamy icing.
So, an S-tier winner.
Absolutely. It's a classic for a reason, and Montana did it justice.
Sometimes you just need that classic comfort food to start your day.
Couldn't agree more.
Speaking of classic breakfast flavors, let's head over to Maine, where they chose blueberry pancakes.
Maine, blueberries. Seems like a natural pairing.
They're famous for those wild blueberries, right?
Exactly.
Did Weissman feel like they did those blueberries justice?
He gave them a solid B. Said the pancakes were fluffy and flavorful, and the wild blueberries added a nice burst of freshness.
Sounds delicious.
But he did mention that blueberry pancakes are pretty common everywhere.
Yeah, I guess it's not the most unique choice.
It made me wonder if Maine could have showcased something a bit more, distinctive to their region.
Like they played it safe.
A little bit, yeah.
Makes you wonder if any other states missed an opportunity to highlight something truly special.
Well, I think Nebraska's kolache is a good example.
Kolache, that Czech pastry.
Yep. Traditionally filled with fruit or cheese, super popular in parts of Nebraska because of the Czech heritage there.
So it makes sense for their breakfast choice.
It does, but Weissman wasn't impressed. He found it dry and lacking in flavor.
Oh, no.
He gave it a C. Seems like a missed opportunity to showcase a dish that's so tied to Nebraska's history.
Yeah, that's too bad.
It could have been a real shining moment for Nebraska's food scene.
Okay, well, let's move on to a state that definitely didn't shy away from bold flavors.
Okay, which state are we talking about?
Alabama. And their Conica sausage.
Conica sausage, I've heard of that.
Now, I'm a big fan of sausage for breakfast, but what made Conica stand out for Weissman?
Conica sausage is known for its smoky flavor, comes from being hickory smoked.
Yeah, that sounds good.
Weissman was a fan, gave it a B. He loved the rich, savory flavor and the crispy texture.
Yeah.
Even suggested it would be amazing in a breakfast sandwich or with some scrambled eggs and grits.
Okay, now I'm officially hungry.
Me too. That sounds like a perfect breakfast combo.
But let's stick with the South for a minute.
Okay.
Georgia and North Carolina, they both went with chicken biscuits.
Chicken biscuits, another Southern staple.
Seems like a safe bet for a delicious breakfast, right?
Definitely.
But were there any notable differences in their approaches?
There were some interesting distinctions. Georgia went for a classic homemade chicken biscuit.
Oh, like from scratch.
Yep. Crispy, juicy fried chicken sandwiched between a flaky, buttery biscuit.
That sounds like true Southern hospitality.
And Weissman agreed. He was blown away. Gave it an S tier, said it was perfection.
Wow, high praise.
North Carolina, on the other hand, went with a crispy creme chicken biscuit.
Oh, interesting. So like a fast food version?
Kind of. And while it's undoubtedly delicious...
It's still crispy creme, right?
Exactly. It felt a bit less, I don't know, representative of North Carolina's unique food scene.
Like a missed opportunity.
Maybe a little. It's still got an A+, say, but sometimes homemade is just better.
Yeah, there's something special about that homemade touch.
It shows you care.
Okay, well, all this talk about Southern comfort food has me craving something a little, well, fancier.
Oh, fancy.
Did any states bring that elegant, brunch-worthy vibe to the breakfast table?
Oh, absolutely. Maryland's crab cake eggs Benedict was a showstopper.
Crab cake eggs Benedict. Okay, that sounds amazing.
It takes that classic eggs Benedict and elevates it.
Oh, how so?
They add Maryland's famous crab cakes.
Now that's a breakfast upgrade.
Right. Weissman raved about it. The rich hollandaise, perfectly poached eggs, those delicate, savory crab cakes. It was a clear S-tier winner.
Maryland knows how to do breakfast right.
They do.
Okay, well, after all that fancy fare, I'm feeling the need for something more down to earth.
Back to basics.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Did any states go for that simple, wholesome kind of breakfast?
Well, both Vermont and New Hampshire went with pancakes, but with a twist.
A twist. I'm intrigued.
They each used their state's own maple syrup.
Oh, that makes sense. A classic New England breakfast.
Exactly. And both versions were delicious. Vermont's pancakes were a bit fluffier, and their syrup had a slightly more complex flavor.
So Vermont takes the win.
In this case, yes. Vermont got an A, New Hampshire a B.
Ah, the eternal maple syrup rivalry.
It's a tough competition.
Okay, well, speaking of regional specialties, let's jump over to Utah.
What did Utah bring to the table?
Utah scones. Now, I'm used to the British version, but what makes a Utah scone different?
Utah scones are a bit of a misnomer, actually. They're not really scones in the traditional sense.
Oh, really? So what are they?
Think more like fried dough balls, often topped with honey butter or powdered sugar.
Interesting. So not your typical scone.
Not at all. It's a dish that reflects Utah's pioneer heritage. Those early settlers had to be resourceful with limited ingredients.
Makes sense. So how did Weissman react to these Utah scones?
He found them tasty, but a bit too sweet and heavy for his liking. Gave them a B.
So a tasty treat, but maybe not the most authentic representation of a scone.
Exactly. It's a good reminder that culinary terms can have different meanings depending on where you are.
That's true. Words can be tricky like that.
They can.
But now I'm curious about a state that doesn't always get the culinary spotlight.
Okay, which state?
South Dakota. What did they choose for their breakfast champion?
South Dakota went with fry bread.
Fry bread.
Yep. It's a dish with deep cultural significance for many Native American tribes.
So it's more than just breakfast. It's a cultural tradition.
Exactly. It's made from simple ingredients, flour, water, sometimes a bit of fat or sugar and fried, until golden brown and puffy.
Sounds simple, but delicious.
It can be served sweet or savory, and in this case, South Dakota topped it with a berry sauce.
Oh, that's nice. So how did it fare with Weissman?
He was impressed. Gave it a B. He liked the flavor and texture and also noted how important it is to recognize the cultural significance of dishes like fry bread.
Yeah, it's a reminder that food is so much more than just fuel.
Absolutely. It's a story, it's history, it's culture, all on a plate.
I love that.
Me too.
Okay, well, speaking of history, let's take a quick trip to Ohio.
Ohio. Okay.
Home of a dish that's both unique and a little mysterious, goetta.
Goetta.
Have you ever tried it?
Can't say that I have, but I've definitely heard of it.
It's one of those regional specialties that you either love or hate.
So what's in it?
It's a mix of ground meat, usually pork and beef, steel-cut oats, onions, spices, all cooked into a loaf, then sliced and fried.
Wow, that's a unique combination.
Right. And it originated with German immigrants in the Cincinnati area.
So it has those German roots.
It does. So what did Weissman think?
He was intrigued by the unusual ingredients, didn't love it, but found it interesting and flavorful enough for a B.
Sounds like one of those things you have to try at least once.
Just for the experience.
Exactly. Sometimes those regional dishes are the most memorable.
Absolutely.
Speaking of memorable, let's head to a state known for its iconic breakfast scene.
Okay, where are we going now?
New York, the city that never sleeps.
And their breakfast choice.
A classic, the bagel and lox.
Ah, a New York institution.
Did it live up to the hype?
Weissman raved about it, loved the quality of the bagel, the creamy schmear, the delicate smoky lox.
So it's an S-tier winner.
Definitely. Got an A. He said it's a classic for a reason.
Hard to argue with that.
But he did point out that New York has so many incredible breakfast options.
Yeah, they're always pushing the boundaries of food.
It's a city that never stops eating.
That's true. Okay, well now I'm craving something tropical.
Tropical.
Let's head down to Florida, where they chose a Cuban breakfast.
Oh, that sounds nice.
So what does a traditional Cuban breakfast consist of?
It's pretty simple, but flavorful. You've got toasted Cuban bread slathered with butter,
Okay, sounds good so far.
and then strong, sweet Cuban coffee alongside it.
So simple, yet satisfying.
It reflects Florida's strong Cuban influence, especially in Miami.
Did Weissman enjoy the taste of Cuba?
He appreciated the simplicity and authenticity, but felt like it was lacking a bit in substance.
So, not quite a complete breakfast.
Not really. He gave it a D, said it was tasty, but not the most filling way to start the day.
It's fair. Different cultures, different breakfast needs.
Absolutely.
But speaking of different breakfast needs, I'm curious about a state that's known for having strong opinions about their breakfast choices.
Okay, which state are we talking about?
New Jersey. They brought back the pork roll, this time in a breakfast sandwich.
Pork roll, the controversial breakfast meat.
Did Weissman change his mind about it?
Not really. He acknowledged that the pork roll breakfast sandwich is a classic Jersey diner staple.
So, points for authenticity.
Definitely. But he still found the pork roll itself to be a bit too processed and salty.
I can see how that would be divisive.
The sandwich got a C, which seems to reflect that love it or hate it nature of pork roll.
Yeah, some foods are just like that.
They evoke strong feelings.
I guess it's a reminder that food is more than just fuel. It's tied to memories, emotions, and a sense of place.
Absolutely. It's about so much more than just taste.
Okay, well, before we reveal the ultimate breakfast champion...
The suspense is killing me.
I know. Let's circle back to those S-tier winners for a moment.
Okay, let's revisit those top contenders.
We've got a real mix of flavors and styles in that top tier.
Right. Some real variety.
Like the Montana cinnamon roll.
Pure comfort food.
Then there's Hawaii's Loco Moco.
That's a total wild card.
But in a good way.
Oh, the best way.
And who could forget Georgia's chicken biscuit?
So crispy, so juicy, so southern.
And let's not forget Arizona with their chilaquiles.
Spicy, cheesy, a real wake-up call for your taste buds.
Then there's the elegance of Maryland's crab cake eggs Benedict.
Proof that breakfast can be fancy.
And lastly, the pure indulgence of North Dakota's monkey bread.
I mean, what's not to love about monkey bread?
Seriously. So many amazing choices, but in the end, there could only be one winner.
One breakfast to rule them all.
So which state's breakfast truly reigned supreme in Weissman's ultimate breakfast showdown?
The competition was fierce, but the dish that truly stole the show and Weissman's heart was Pennsylvania's grilled sticky.
Grilled sticky. Now, I got to be honest, when I first heard about it, I was like, really? A grilled sticky bun?
Right. It sounds so simple.
But are you telling me that beat out all those other incredible breakfast dishes?
It did. Weissman was blown away. He talked about the crispy edges, the caramelized sugar, the burst of cinnamon.
Okay, now I'm seriously regretting not having a grilled sticky right now.
I know, right? It sounds incredible. He even said it was the kind of breakfast that makes you want to lick the plate clean.
Okay, now I'm sold. I need to try this grilled sticky. But I think what I love most about this whole deep dive is that it's about so much more than just finding the best breakfast.
Right. It's a bigger picture.
It's about exploring all the different breakfast traditions across America, appreciating all the unique flavors each state brings to the table.
And seeing how food connects to culture and history.
Exactly. And it's a reminder that breakfast doesn't have to be boring, you know?
Totally.
There's a whole world of delicious possibilities out there.
So many breakfast adventures waiting to happen.
So what does this all mean for our listeners?
It means next time you're planning your breakfast, don't be afraid to get a little adventurous.
Step outside your comfort zone.
Exactly. Try something new, explore different cuisines, maybe even try your hand at making one of these dishes yourself.
And who knows, you might discover your new favorite breakfast.
You might even create your own S-tier breakfast masterpiece.
Now, if you'll excuse me, I'm suddenly craving a grilled sticky.
Haha, me too.
Thanks for joining us on this delicious deep dive into the world of American breakfast.
I think it's safe to say that Weissman found some real gems on his breakfast journey.
Oh, for sure. Some real hidden treasures and maybe a few surprises along the way.
Speaking of surprises, let's talk about Colorado and their choice.
They went with the breakfast burrito, right?
Yep, a classic Southwestern staple.
Seems like a solid choice. Hearty, flavorful, perfect for starting the day.
Right. But Weissman was looking for something a little more, special.
So the Colorado burrito didn't quite make the cut.
It got a B. He said it was delicious, but a bit generic, like something you could find anywhere.
I guess when you're comparing it to all these other unique dishes, it's got to really stand out.
Exactly. Colorado missed an opportunity to showcase something a bit more unique to their state.
Well, I guess you can't win them all.
True that.
Okay, well, let's head to a state that knows a thing or two about breakfast.
Okay, which state are we talking about?
California.
The land of avocado toast and breakfast bowls.
They went with a California breakfast staple, the breakfast burrito.
Breakfast burrito, interesting. So how did California's version stack up?
Weissman was impressed. He gave it an A, praised the fresh ingredients, the perfect balance of flavors, and the overall execution.
So California knows how to do a breakfast burrito, right?
They do. But he also mentioned that California has such a diverse food scene.
Right, like so many different culinary influences.
It's almost impossible to choose just one dish to represent the whole state.
It's like a microcosm of American breakfast.
Exactly. Okay, well, let's wrap up this delicious journey with a trip to a state that's known for its, shall we say, unique culinary choices.
Okay, I'm intrigued. Which state are we ending with?
Massachusetts.
Massachusetts, home of clam chowder and Boston baked beans.
But for breakfast, they went with something a little different.
Oh, I'm on the edge of my seat. What did they choose?
Fluffernutter.
Fluffernutter, like the marshmallow fluff and peanut butter sandwich.
The one and only.
For breakfast. That's bold.
It is. And I have to say, Weissman was not a fan.
I can't say I'm surprised.
He gave it an F, said it was way too sweet and sticky for breakfast.
Yeah, I can see how that wouldn't be everyone's cup of tea, especially first thing in the morning.
I think it's more of a nostalgic treat than a breakfast staple.
Definitely. But hey, different strokes for different folks, right?
Exactly. And that's what makes this whole exploration of American breakfast so much fun.
It's all about discovering new flavors, appreciating different traditions, and maybe even challenging our own breakfast boundaries a little bit.
Absolutely. And who knows, maybe you'll even be inspired to create your own S-tier breakfast masterpiece. Now, if you'll excuse me, I'm off to find the nearest bakery that sells sticky buns. Thanks for joining us on this delicious deep dive into the world of American breakfast.